Peace.
Peace.
This is Joshua Law, Mr. PhD. You're just now entering the cipher called Real2reel360. K-Wise.
Peace, God.
Bring that beat in, kid.
Indeed.
Peace.
Yeah. What's going on, party people? Welcome to the Real2reel360 show. Let's get it in.
We do the knowledge and wisdom so you can understand. Real2reel360 shows in full command. We changing the game for how it all was taught. From bondage to freedom to an independent thought. Yo, the show is here to bring about a change for real. To lighten everyone so we all know the deal. 360 degrees is a fact. We created the show to give our love back to our communities so we can know what's going on and give them the support from knowledge to born. So if you're ready to learn, then it's time to go. Sit back and relax and enjoy your show. Peace.
Peace and blessings to Allah's mighty 5% nation of gods and earths, and to all the human families of the planet Earth. I bid you peace, love, peace, and happiness. This is the one and only DJ K-Wise, aka Kato, the Black Superhero. Welcome you to another exciting and explosive episode of the Real2reel360. But before I get in to say what I'm about to say, I got to bring on my co-host with the most, none other than my brother in God, Mr. Joshua Allah, aka Mr. PhD himself. Peace, my brother.
Peace, peace, peace to all our followers, peace to all our listeners, peace to all those who subscribe. Also, I want to take the time out right now to thank Miss Marcy Brondo, also known as Sparkle, for all the things that she's been doing for Real2reel360.
Absolutely.
How she has been booking guests left and right to keep us busy and keep, this knowledge out there. So want to say thank you and give you a big high salute. Want to say peace and blessings to Bars and Hoops, for doing their thing out there in Long Island. Keeping this knowledge and everything and keeping the radio going. Them brothers out there is doing their thing. The sisters that's with them is doing their thing. So we always want to make sure that we acknowledge everybody who helped pushes us. And but I want to also too, K, man, I want to salute you, man. You my brother, man. We do this here, man, and we've been doing this here for like 2 years, man. And it seemed like, as they say on Godfather, man, when we think we out of here, they keep pulling us back. They keep pulling us back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, also, too, those individuals who were looking for us to have Reek the Villain on yesterday, unforeseen circumstances had caused us not to be able to have the God on. But we will have him on Monday evening at 7 p.m. So make sure you tune in for that. Make sure you tune in this afternoon for Men at Large. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for Lynn Myers. We're going to be talking about sex abuse, how that affects not only the individual who has been abused, but the individuals who are in their families, for their spouses, boyfriends, and everything else. So we're going to have a really, really impactful week and show. Next week, we also, too, got Vic Allen. So, like I said, the lineup is going to be crazy. You know what I'm saying? The lineup is going to be crazy.
Want to give a big shout out to our big brother always, man. Bishmi Allah, man. We love you, bro. Keep doing what you're doing, man, because your education has always corrected our errors and pushed us to be the best that we can be. Also, to Mr. R himself, I want to definitely give a shout out to the God. To all our families, man, our friends, our supporters, man. Listen, it's been a great 2 years, and if you have been on the Real2reel360 on our YouTube page, the numbers are growing phenomenally. We reached our milestone for 360, but we have surpassed it by 20 plus more members. So we want to thank y'all. Keep subscribing, keep coming along, and don't be afraid. We look for you to hit us up, man, and get any donations that we can for y'all on our Cash App, because all the proceeds will go to uplift this show and bring you more better content as we move forward. We're looking to do a lot of things. We're looking to start doing our traveling shows and everything, going to some venues where a lot of the communities are doing their thing. So we're going to do live on the spot reportings as well, because we are all about doing what we're supposed to do. But The whole point of this show right now, I have
Yes,
to say it,
sir.
I gotta say it. If you're not ready for the truth, then you are not on this show. You do not need to be listening. You do not need to be tuned in unless you are ready for the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen, we have none other than the unconquerable, and I must say, the man of the most, the highest host, none other than our honorable Judge Joe Brown at this time on Real to Real 360. We are so glad to have you back, Judge. It is a
Well, I guess the judge is in the house. Good
yes,
morning.
sir.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How's everything with you?
Good afternoon. Everything is fine.
Great. Mr. Judge Joe Brown, Honorable Judge Joe Brown, the last time that you were on, so many people tuned in and so many people responded to just the information that you gave during that point in time about the situation with Martin Luther King and even some of the Jesse Smollett situation. But we know today that you are back to discuss you running for mayor in the town of Memphis.
Right. I got called, so what can I do but respond to the call? I guess I got drafted. There's need for leadership. We have not had it. I mean, see, one of the main problems that we are facing right now is the lack of masculinity. Whether you're talking about some freak that shoots up a hallway or some hood rat that's shooting up the hood or a hallway, it's a lack of masculinity. See, most of this stuff that our young boys do is nothing but punked out mess, sissified mess. Men don't do what they do. You are a man. You are about making where you live a better, safer, more secure, more economically prosperous place filled with sense of purpose, morality, and ethics, decency, and public safety. You can be brave and courageous when necessary, but a man of public peace, dignity, and order when appropriate. And see, masculinity inputs into a boy's head an inflexible standard of conduct that he is supposed to feel intense shame for deviating from. But what do you get? Oh my God, we should never allow anyone to suffer shame. Oh, that's so horrible. That's shaming. Damn, some people need to be shamed. The other thing is, too, that the young women who have their children in their exclusive clutches, they don't realize it, but for human infants and children, they are most responsive to the mother or to a female figure until they get to be a little over 7, and then they become more responsive to the males. But what's being put in their head, especially in our community, is poisonous because, well, an anecdote. 25 or so years ago, I used to conduct counseling sessions for young women who had sons 13 to 17 in the public schools. They were supposedly single. All right. We had several discussion groups going, and invariably, when I started the first session with each group, you'd get some flavor that judge would respect what you need a man to be involved in raising a boy or a child with. I hear you, girlfriend. Men ain't worth, this, that, and the other. They ain't this, they ain't that. They just about one thing. They're useless, etc., etc. And I'd let them go on for a while, and I'd interrupt after this has gone on far enough, and I'd say, now, if I'm correct in my understanding, the reason all of you are here is so that your boys grow up to be men. Is that right? Well, that's right. So you don't want them to grow up to be sissies, do you? I said, well, let me ask you this question. How the hell are you going to raise them to be men if you don't know what they're supposed to be good for when they get grown? They get quiet. So you're telling me all the negatives. Did anybody in here ever think about the fact that you think so negatively about men that the boys pick this up and you're downing what they're supposed to be when they grow up? Now, how do you think they're going to grow up and be healthy and doing what they do? The other thing is, see, mothers used to be part of this process of turning their boys into men. What did the Spartan mothers say in legend? Son, come back with your shield on it, do or die. Don't embarrass the family, etc. Act like a man. Boy, you better stop crying. Men don't do this. Now, it's, oh, my baby, I know it hurts. All this. And there isn't even a clue. And you've got families where for 6 generations there's never been a man around. And 6 generations can pass by very quickly. And I had several families in my courtroom where I had 6 generations and everybody was alive, and the oldest one, the matriarch, was still going around and clowning. Let me give you one. It's 1994 through 1996. It went on for about, I'd say, well, the immediate concern, about 15, 16 months. I had started off in 94 with a 57-year-old woman. She was in front of me on felony drug and theft offenses. I had her 43-year-old daughter, who was her second child, born when she was 14, in front of me, same charges. The 43-year-old had a 34-year-old daughter born 1 week shy of her 10th birthday, who was in front of me. The 43-year-old also had a 32-year-old son born when she was 11 and a 31-year-old daughter in front of me born when she was 12. Well, the 34-year-old daughter of the 43-year-old had a 21-year-old daughter in front of me. The 21-year-old daughter had an 11-year-old girl born when she was 10. And the 11-year-old was pregnant with her second child. Now, 14, 15 months later, the 21-year-old was now 23. The 11-year-old was now 13 with 3 children. And the 57-year-old was now 59. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations. And the oldest one is just 59 years old. So 4 years later, in 2000, when I retired, it developed that this woman had quite a few descendants. In 96, when I was eyeballing her every 2 weeks because she was in front of me on a violation, 1 week she had 342 lineal descendants. 2 weeks later, she had 358. And by 2000, she had 3,400. One of her lineal descendants was some fool that had an IQ of about 74, 75. Legitimate. Wasn't due to cultural privation. He's really stupid and unintelligent. And actually, we had a control factor on some tests, and the crows and magpies did better on the test than he and his family members did. But this fool, who was 29 years old, had, guess what, 64 children. Didn't pay child support for one. He had a cousin that had 49 and another one had 47. And on down. So it was this huge brood, and they were stupid. We had an experiment that we did with the birds. It was a clear lucite cylinder. It was just narrow enough for the bird to get in there, but too deep for the bird to reach down and get the treat off of what actually was a float. There was a bird ladder that went up the outside. There was a faucet at the bottom with a long lever to turn on and off. Well, the birds would play with it, see water would come out, and they'd fill the thing up with water. The float would rise to the top. A lot of them cut the things off so it didn't spill. And they'd climb up the bird ladder and get the treat. Well, there was an overlap because they had a lot of vacation time built up when I was doing the first 2 years of the show. So I wound up donating $5,000 in cash to the experiment. And the cash in a container in pink wrappers was on this float. There was a fire hose hooked up to a faucet going in there. And if you turn the faucet on, the water would cause the float to rise up, and you walk up the ladder and get your $5,000. They signed a contract to this effect. Do you know they couldn't figure that out, but the birds could? I'm going, what the hell am I looking at? It looks like it's a human. But no, I mean, the birds can figure out how dumb is this. And you can say, look, man, $5,000 right there, that's yours if you can figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
One guy we had to rescue, they had to get it up out. That was the condition. He fell down in there and got stuck. I mean, it's like, what's the matter with you? You know, so that is one of our problems. There's no manhood in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, also, as far as we could tell, out of the 3,400 something, a lot of them were children. Hold on one second. My niece is my housekeeper is here. Let me tell her I'm on line.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you are being privileged to see Judge Joe Brown and hear Judge Joe Brown speak at this moment. Thank you so much.
Well, she's here. My niece is grown. She also pays house. She's a grandmother herself. She doesn't look it, but, you know, she's been around a while. We talk about the problems we have. So one of the things I want to do is bring to the table what I did to try and correct this. Now, it's nothing new. They did it in caves. They did it out amongst the lions in the huts in Africa. The Romans did this. The legions did. The Marines do. Scouting used to do. Everybody did it all around. It's how you train a boy to be a man. And you input these things into the boy's head so he feels that intense shame if he's not acting like a man. And he dedicates himself to getting up every morning and going to work and providing for those he has an obligation to, leading those and giving guidance to those he has an obligation to. And he's a man. And they work. But what we have now is a social construct where the things that keep men peaceable and productive are actually being destroyed because they get in the way of somebody's being freak. Now, I don't care what somebody does with somebody in the bedroom, get your freak on. I don't want to know about it. What did the kids say? TMI, too much information. I don't want to know that shit, you know. But they're trying to push that in school instead of manhood. They're trying to push that on television and in motion pictures, not manhood. And they're wondering about, oh my God, all of this violence. Doesn't make sense. Oh, get rid of the guns. They kill all these people. No, the guns don't kill people. You can kill people pretty easily with a brick or a rock. In fact, more reliably with a brick or a rock than you can with a firearm. So what are you going to do with it? You're going to get rid of all the rocks on the planet? No, it's not about the weaponry. It's about the character. Now, I've been taking martial arts for 55 years, and I can kill most people who don't have the level of training that I have in a few seconds without working up a sweat. So what are you going to do with me? Restrict me? Would I walk in someplace? No, my character says I'll protect the people in there. That's what I do as a man. So you don't have to worry about me. So this specious thing where they keep coming up with excuses for destroying manhood and unmanly conduct. And see, manhood is a rough thing. It's basically this. The Titanic #2 is going down in the icy water and there aren't enough lifeboats, and you have to stand up and say, ma'am, you and your child can go before me. I'll take my chances. I guess maybe I'll have to drown, but I'm willing, you know, women and children first.
Mhm.
But you see, now some sissified freak is likely to get up. I'm getting in the boat. Can't you see I got on a dress? Doesn't work that way.
Judge, would you say we have gone backwards, or I go back to Plato's cave philosophy, where people are a certain few are stuck in the cave and only learning one thing that they see, which is not a real object, but it's something that's projected to them, versus letting one person outside who goes and now sees that what he saw in the cave is definitely not what is the reality of life as we know it. And when he comes back in to try to give the information to say that what we
Well, I
You know
think.
what? Here's the thing.
Mhm.
You have to have character.
Mhm.
Character dictates what you do every day in your life. And if you totally destroy character because it doesn't fit your sexual narrative, or well, not even sexual narrative, because I know some gay people who aren't like that.
Mhm.
It's got to do with a lifestyle, a worldview type thing of you owe nothing to anyone but yourself. You should be allowed to opt out if you don't want to do what you want to do. Now, there are a lot of people that have died, bled, been mutilated, gotten messed up in their heads for the rest of their lives behind doing the right thing. So I don't imagine that it is wrong to tell somebody, hey, uh, I don't care if you don't get your thing together like you'd like to. You have an obligation to everybody else to do what you're supposed to. And you see, they're corrupting things. You can't have the crescent and the star on a flag under the American flag at an American federal building. You can't have a cross under it. You can't have a six-pointed Jewish star, but you can have a rainbow flag. You can have government employees paint the sidewalks rainbow and the crosswalks rainbow, and in D.C., a 12-story banner hanging down a federal building. So you can do all of these things, but the problem is that you can't give any other system of philosophy that kind of leeway. And to think of what we're looking at, imagine a new religion that is being spread by zealots. Now, we have Judaism, Islam, Christianity, we have Hinduism, we have all sorts of things. We have Buddhist, we have Confucianist, but interestingly enough, those last two are not possessed of a God. They're systems of philosophy. So if you take LGBTQ, et cetera, as a cult and look at it as a system of philosophy, you have some converts who are zealously trying to convert the country to that religion. And it's not right because it works wrong. The thing I said about the young women and the women being able to have much more influence on a human child until that child gets to 7 years old. Why do you think you have these trannies reading to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds in public libraries, preschools, kindergarten, and in the lower realms of elementary school that are public school? Why do you think they do that? That's because they want to get in these kids' heads.
Mhm.
You talk about toxic masculinity, which is another propaganda technique. It's a lie because what the problem is not toxic masculinity. It's the absence of masculinity. This word homophobic, that's another flip the script thing where what homophobic is about is a gay hang up. They're trying to put this thing where the word that's been in the dictionary, heterophobia, deals with the very real phobia that gays have about getting burned at the stake, lynched, ostracized, thrown in jail, castrated, mutilated, talked about badly, fired, embarrassed. See, so that's a propaganda technique. You flip the script. And then you get in very little time people thinking that kind of way. Now, one of the ways that you take something over is corrupt the language in the way that you want to corrupt it and get people to using that corrupted language. And very quickly they start thinking of themselves in that way. That N word that some of us so frequently use. Yeah, man, you like, see, Judge, man, it's like we cleaned it up, man, like it's a thing of love, man. We took all the poison out of it. No, you didn't, because your subconscious knows exactly what that word means. And every time you say it, even if you think you're just being cool, street cred, all the rest of it, and you use that N word, saying it to yourself, and every time you say it, you add another chink worth of negativity to what you've been doing to erode your self-respect. So that's what you do. You take a negative word, you get the target to adopt it, and it becomes part of the target's culture. So you take homophobia, which is a made-up word, and it reflects hang-ups, LGBTQ hang-ups, and you get people that are your targets to trying to prove that they're not. And it's basically like I walked into a movie theater a couple of weeks ago, and I'm walking out of the movie. It was all right. And I'm looking at these animations that are upcoming for children. So they have the posters, and they've got this character, that character, and the next one. And then when I got to the fourth one, I paused. Two guys standing there. The flavor was gay. And one guy had his hands on the other one's behind, squeezing it. And that one was squeezing the first one's behind. So I'm saying, you know what? If that was a guy squeezing a girl's behind, all of these feminists would go completely freak. But here they got two boys squeezing each other's behinds, and that's supposed to be acceptable. If they had two guys and a girl up on a float in a parade and everybody was basically naked and the dude's stuff's hanging out and he's swinging it around, playing that he's sticking it in the girl who's bending over to do it doggy style, everybody would go to jail. And children wouldn't be allowed to look at it. But you can have the gay simulation, everybody's naked, dicks hung out and everything else. That's all right. And they got children coming up. Oh, can I? Oh, hi. Oh, honey, this is just, what in the world are we doing to ourselves?
Twisted thinking.
Yeah. Now, see, this stuff started, and you have to understand what is at the bottom of it. It wasn't just those who were homosexual or bisexual. It was something else. I saw this stuff get started in the 60s. Started off with the lesbians who hated men, the feminists who hated that they weren't men, the beta boys that hated that they were not strong men, the homosexual men that hated that they were not normal men, and the peaceniks who hated that men caused war, the way they looked at it. So the anti-war crowd with the nom going on put the ballast on top of the other ones to get them the weight they needed to start shifting stuff around. A lot of that crowd got into the movie and entertainment industry because it was going bankrupt. When you went to a theater, you got two movies, a couple of cartoons, newsreel, maybe a third sub-feature. So the movie studios were having to put out 200, 150 movies a year. And every Thursday, every Sunday, the movies changed. It cost 25 cents, 50 cents to go in and see the movie. You walk in when you wanted to. It stayed as long as you wanted. Somebody said, oh, we have two bright ideas. We're going to switch it over so the movie starts on time, finishes on time. You come in before then, you get out after it's over. And we will keep the movie as long as people come. Then the second idea was all of these black people who want to see themselves, we're going to give them these movies, but we're not going to give them movies that would inspire them to do better. We're going to give them the lowest common denominator so we can put stuff out there on the screen they'll flock to see that they can perceive themselves becoming part of. So you got the start of 50 years of glorification of dysfunction, where instead of a young man who's going to college, he's a soldier or a cop, he's a businessman, he's providing for the family. He's or a woman who's doing something commendable. What you got was pimps, hoes, drug dealers, murderers, thieves, gangsters, and every other negative that got glorified. Mm-hmm. You got the first one I remember was Black Caesar with Fred the Hammer Williams, a former football player. Mm-hmm. And the premise was the hero is a drug dealer and a murderer, and he rides off into the sunset smoking a big cigar. And, like, wow. And a group of us went to see that. And what the hell is that, man? What they're trying to deal with? This criminality? We can't have that. And then, it culminated with Superfly, where you glorified the sale of cocaine. Mm-hmm. And you got Foxy Brown with pretty looking Pam Grier. But every damn movie she was in, she'd get knocked down 5 or 6 times and a titty would pop out. Bare ass would flash. The obligatory scene with 4 white women walking around naked, just got out the shower. And do dealings in stuff that was poisoning the community. At first, they tried to make like somebody was angry because a baby brother died from drugs or something, but it quickly morphed into something else. Mm-hmm. So we have had that where instead of being a man working hard, you're ideating on how many grams you can move, how many you have to sell before you can get your track cut and get somebody to push you or whatever it may be, and the glorification of dysfunction. And I'm not downing rappers per se, but I'm downing what too many of them don't have the balls to do, which is say something good. I know some of them, known them for years because I was sort of big daddy to them. And what I got was, Judge, you got to understand, man, we can't do this. We destroy our careers. Well, destroy them, get a regular job like everybody else. But, we got to sneak something positive in there. Put it in there directly. You don't have to do this. And plus, all of you guys are stagnated any damn way. I don't even like American music much, except some of the pretty ladies, which they sound cool. I like that. But most of the rest of it, I can't tell whether it's 2 days old, 2 weeks old, 2 months old, 2 years, 2 decades, or 40 years old. It all sounds the same. Like, damn, man, you walk in some place and everybody from 15 to 77 is doing the same dance to the same music. That was never to happen when I was growing up. The old folks, grandparents didn't know what my parents were doing, and my parents didn't know what we were doing. Now, 6 generations, they're all throwing down, same dance.
You told
and
you.
It's ridiculous that nobody in the youthful set has come up with music and dancing that the old folk can't do. That is pathetic. It's stagnated. And one of the reasons is all across the world, young men want to see masculinity. So when they see the gangster rap video that goes along with dude doing his rhymes and doing his rock, and they got all the half-naked women bouncing around looking sexy, it's supposed to be masculinity, but it's not. It's way far from masculinity, because if the truth be known, if you went to the projects 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, when they were not yet born or just about to get born or just had been born, what you see on stage is representatives of their grandmamas, their aunts, and their mama, and all of their friend girls who are hanging on the stoop in the projects with a 40 ounce in one hand, cigarette or a joint in the other, a little too small, booty shorts with their butt cheeks hanging out the bottom trying to get laid. So that's what they're emulating, and what they're saying up there about exploiting the women instead of taking care of them is just what they remember subconsciously when they were 7, 8 years old, when their favorite 12-year-old aunt was saying something about what's going on in the world. So we don't have masculine ideation.
Judge Joe Brown.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, because we're talking about masculinity, and they're pushing this murder culture and this gay culture on our children. What is the key for us to reverse that and stop all that's going on? Because a couple of weeks ago, they had an individual who was on a shooting spree in Memphis. And
oh, yeah. By the way, you know how many people got shot in Memphis in the last 11 days? It's 17. But they didn't put all that on the news. I was just talking to some woman who was biographer for Emmett Till's mother and Emmett Till, a doctor, Weems, and written many books. And she's from the Memphis area. She just lost her 25-year-old nephew, an educated young man trying to make it in life. And he wasn't doing anything but coming home when somebody killed him. But that didn't even make the news.
Right. And that's the thing, that with these young men, they become more sissified, whereas they're scared to fight. They're scared to
Dude, why didn't you just, if you took this offense, why didn't you just go toe to toe with it? What you mean, Your Honor? Well, fight it out. Look, I got all my ladies take care of me, Your Honor, with due respect. I can't be having no scars on my face and keep me from being pretty. I ain't gonna fight nobody. Well, you pop a cap on it. That sounds like your thug mama throwing battery acid on her neighbor because the neighbor happened to glance up at a boyfriend that she lost 2 weeks later, 3 years ago. Or we call it cat fight, when the women be down on the ground, clawing each other's cheeks, trying to bite earlobes and noses off, and generally acting a damn fool. That's what you're trying to do? Looks to me just like it. How are we R-rated, X-rated, or PG in here right now?
Right now, it seems like you just say whatever you want to. X-rated.
Okay. In other words, well, I'll put it this way. A 15-year-old said this, and it's been 20-some years ago, 25 years ago, during the counseling session. He said, Mama, look at here. Don't count on me being home when you get off. I'm going early, Judge, if you don't mind. I'm getting the hell out of there. I want to be a man. So you've been calling me a dog my whole life. I ain't never called you no dog. You keep saying all men are dogs. What the hell am I supposed to be when I grow up, a sissy? So I want to be a dog. By the way, that's why we call you bitches, because you be fucking all these dogs, having all these puppies. Or are we supposed to look at you like you into bestiality, or are you a lady dog, which means you are a bitch? See, that's where we get it from.
Why do you feel that we as a society easily accept the wrong narrative words as opposed as a badge of honor? Why do we continue to do that?
It's a propaganda technique. It's easy enough to do. It takes about 3 weeks to get something like that going on a national basis. 50 years ago, it took 6 weeks. Also, it's reflective of slave culture. Some half century ago, I was with a DC think tank, and we had to go through the Library of Congress to research what they call the slave pamphlets on microfilm. They were instruction manuals on how to raise slaves for fun and profit. There'd be an infomercial now if they were still out there. And one of their secrets was put the elements of slavery in the culture of the Negro. So they teach it to themselves. And that's what we do. We teach so much about being second class and subservient to ourselves. Now, I'm not going to extrapolate on it, but one of the most important things that the slave owners had in their heads as to what to put in the culture was to convince the Negro that he was dependent upon you for everything. Get it so he doesn't look for opportunity to achieve, but he looks for opportunities to please so you can give. Now, there are a number of things out there where people are talking about, we earned it, we deserve it, instead of saying like we did in the 60s, get the hell out of my way and I'll do it for my damn self. We now have become acculturated to expecting somebody to give it to us. And see, one of the worst things that came out of the 60s was that welfare scheme, particularly the part that allowed you to get a bigger check for more babies, babies for bucks, bucks for babies, rather, and keep the father out. So that became part of the environment that people bred to, and that became part of the culture, and it got passed on, and now we've seen 6 generations since the 70s. So in some of them, the 7 actually now, if not 8, and the oldest is still alive. And that kind of negativity about dependency is poisonous. And if you want to get biblical on everybody, what is it? You can feed a man a fish or teach him to fish so he can feed himself. So we have gotten trapped in that getting fed a fish.
Judge, I want to ask you on an educational basis question. Now, we know that the educational system here in the United States of America is not a fair thing when it comes to amongst our people. As you running for mayor even within your town, but you see this as abroad, how can we look at a fair system in education when we have our young Black men and women who go to college, who get the higher learning, but yet as they come out of the higher learning institution are the lowest ones to get jobs for the work that they went to go study for?
Okay, that's true. I saw that in Hollywood for 15 years. I was the number 1, number 2 syndicated show in America. I beat Oprah's behind every week the last several years. But you never heard it because I was a male, Black, and straight. Black man and straight. There are problems, but one of the things we have to deal with is look in the mirror. God damn it, quit playing bid whisk and running about football games and going to parties. Quit trying to get high in an environment where it's okay. Focus. Start looking at the world and use what you see in school as inspiration. I've had more problems with college educated Black folk, white ones too, not so much the Asian ones, where the problem was is they had the education, but they hadn't learned any damn thing. And I used to say, look, son, young lady, any damn fool can look this up. I want you because you have common sense and you can put it to work by getting the big picture, but you don't have to do the big picture. You go to a historical Black college or university and it looks like a junior high school the way they run it. I went to one where you paid your money, it was your time. They didn't give a damn whether you came or went. That was your business. I went to UCLA back in the 60s. Now, last time I went to a historical Black college or university, and I won't mention it because there are a lot of graduates who are doing some good things in life, but it was like what I'd see in an unruly, junior high school or middle school, not even high school, where they had to have detention and merits and punishments and things like that. Like, what the hell? Look like they're grown. Or I went to the campus they had for Spelman, Clark, and Morehouse, and 2 mothers were in a physical combat over by the student union after their daughters, one was 23 and the other one was 22, but they were seniors. And it got to fighting because one of them talked about the other one on Facebook or some nonsense like that. And it's talking to the dean, it was kind of I used to be a substitute teacher more than a half century ago, junior high and high school. You're describing problems that I had with junior high school kids, but not even the high school. What's going on? Or I was helping one woman. She's a judge now. She had a beautiful daughter who's graduated. I rode down there with her and another family friend to take 2 other young ladies so they could move them into the dorms. And when we got there, there was a drive, and we couldn't get in the drive because there were 3 big fat women in a van, and they were chain smoking. And after they'd been there for a while, I said, "Excuse me, can you move?" I said, "What's the problem?" "None of us know how to drive." "Well, why are you here?" "Well, our friend girl, she up there with her daughter and her move her. Can you, one of you go up there and get her? Because you see, you got a whole block where the car is backed up behind you. You've been here 35 minutes. That's kind of selfish. You can just carry it to the front door." That's a long way for these people to carry these trunks. Some of them aren't physically able. So these idiots stayed there another 45 minutes with a big pile of cigarette butts piled up outside of their van until this fool, selfish fool, came down from upstairs. Now, I saw something like that this last week where some of my crew, we decided to stop someplace, an IHOP, get something to eat. We had to show up for an assembly for the parade. It's 7 a.m. So there was somebody pulling out of a parking space so he could come back out. He a little sissy dude. He brought out his umbrella and he twitched over, and we had to sit there, 20-some cars waiting on his fool sugary behind to come back so he could get in the car and not have to walk to the parking lot. So what's wrong with you? Do you think you own this? Could you rent us some damn space? You see, he looked like he'd get his behind whipped if it came for that, but they're not used to an ass whipping these days, because we should never allow bullies to bully the parents and the teachers and the police. We should control these things so the boys grow up never learning how to deal with that kind of adversity. And it's absolutely crazy. And it leads to violence because that beast is still in there. If you don't know that beast, he'll get out of hand and he'll come back and bite you and everything else. And see, that's the problem. You've heard of suicide by cop?
Yeah.
They have suicide by neighbor. In other words, you provoke somebody into doing you the personal favor of taking your life. But if you kill him, you feel better about it because you scapegoated somebody. And that is one of the problems. That's drugs too. It ain't about getting high. It's about trying to die.
And you see these kids now, they're dying of fentanyl and these different what's that, syrup and all these other drinks that they're doing for us getting high. You think that's causing a problem with them being would you say sissified? And
yes, it is. It's unmanly. And the other thing is, see, you know, one of the solutions, we have to, every opportunity we get, talk about somebody. "Hey, punk, what's wrong with you, man? You punked out, unmanly little sissified creep. Why don't you man up and act like you're supposed to?" Nobody's saying it. "Oh, man, you little lame sucker. Hey, man, you do the 6B routine, man. You know, like unbelt, drop your britches, drop your boxes, bend over, spread your butt cheeks, and get boy bang, dude. That's what you strike. Man, what's the matter with you? Got your pants hung off your butt, sag, bag, and drag." See, principals used to love me. I'd get all of them standing up, pulling their pants up. I say, "Go right ahead. I mean, you know, you can come on out the closet." "What you mean come out the closet?" First time I saw that, man, it's like, the inmate I was talking to said, "Man, you know, we up in here doing long time of life, man. We got everything we need except soft booty, so we trying to make something. That's man pussy over there. We make them wear it hung off their ass like that, so when the guards ain't around, we can pull them down, bend them down, and get down. And we try to run, they fall down to their ankles, they trip up booty in the air. See them baggy shirts, man, we don't let them wear no panties on the block, man, but you know, We make them take their pants off, and that's their dress, man. We just opening it up so it ain't no effort to slide it in. We girling them out.
Whew.
And you see all the young folk sag down below their butts, and that's supposed to be cool. Now look like man pussy. Exactly what it is. But I guess it's the 21st century. Come on out the damn closet if you want, if that's what you realize you're doing.
Your
Man,
Honor,
like some man pussy, dude. Man, what's wrong with you? You got tendencies, dude, man. Your mama give you too many enemas when you was growing up, man.
Honorable Judge Joe Brown, I want to ask you this too. When we look at the system, your campaign, how are things going along with you and your campaign for mayoral?
Well, we had Orange Mound Parade. Orange Mound is a historically black neighborhood in Memphis. A lot of people hail from it. So they put on a parade every year. And we had about 6,000 people there. And I got the house, man. People yelling, running out to the vehicle I was in and wanting to shake hands and get pictures. And the course marshals were talking about, hurry up, move up. And the people were telling them to go to hell. We want our judge. And meanwhile, one of my opponents was riding along, and I hate to use the phrase, but the kids have a good one. Boule Negroes. Oh, they were so proper. Oh, hi. Like, what the hell is wrong with you, man? Reach your people, fool. I'll get crude. I mean, I found out he was a frat brother of mine, but some of the supporters who were also rat. Well, we have to support our frat brothers. Since when did you get me? 2014. I said, I got made 1966. So I guess I'm senior in the crowd. So what you think you're doing over here? And I got made the hard way when what that frat thing was about was we were supposed to be fighting segregation and apartheid. And you were getting pledged hard to see if you had what it took. So if Sheriff Billy Bob was torturing you, you wouldn't tell on everybody. Now you folk punk out, and if somebody looks at you, touches you, pushes you, oh my God, abuse. So it is what it is. So I couldn't help myself. He's always been trying to make money off of the public, which is the wrong thing to do. Well, we'll have a good, fair contest. I said, no, I'm going to kick your punk ass.
Police brutality. I got police brutality. Do you still feel that, especially amongst the Black and brown communities, do we need to just fall to the wayside and just commit ourselves to their will, or
no.
be taught more education in the government or the legislative system?
Do that, but you see, you're relying on the popular press and the woke folk. For every one black woke person or empathizer that talks about that, you got 25 to 30 black folk that live in the neighborhood want the police to kill them. Man, kill that MF, man. He been causing trouble around here his whole damn life, man. Ain't no peace. We ain't had no peace till they killed him. You see, folk don't like living in an environment where they come home from work. Where all my stuff go, man? Damn. Right. Somebody ripped me. Somebody burglarized me. You got to put the babies in the bathtub at night in case some fools do a drive-by. See, people don't want that.
So how do we clean that
people
up?
That was clowning in Memphis, we've got a town hall meeting tomorrow. I conduct these things once a month. And it's by CAS, Commission Against Senseless Killing. And we've got a whole bunch of people that did not get reported on in the press when this dude was trying to hide out. They went to the roofs with rifles and pistols and shotguns, and they were going to blow the dude away if the police hadn't gotten there when they did. And he had been causing all kinds of hell in his neighborhood. See, so, yeah. So now, it's wrong for the police to do what they do, But we got taught back in the 5th grade, and when I was in the 5th grade, it was in the 1950s, about what you do and how you deal with police. Yeah, you run into the bad thing, but what do they say? Don't ever run from a dog. He'll think you are something to go kill. Don't act like prey. And when you take off and get to running, if you badass and you trying to get away, you know, because what you do is what you do. That's one thing. When you say, I was scared of the police, well, quit unpunk, fool. That's a punk move. If you're going to go play kamikaze, play kamikaze. You know, hell, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But don't sit up. I was scared. I get so damn sick and tired of that punk play rationale. Stop being scared, get some balls, and man the hell up. And meanwhile, punch it out with somebody. Instead of doing a drive-by, you might end some of the violence going on. But you see, that's not the way to do it. And see, the other point is we have to do something about the girl-rillas.
Damn, the girl-rillas?
The mamas that act like damn thugs.
Oh, okay.
One point in life, hey, man, somebody's mama just walked in. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't see you come in. Hey, man, there's a lady present. Oh, yeah, man. Lady walk in, she more gangster than anybody up in the room. Not lady, but the female walks in. What kind of is that?
Right.
Then see, I'm not against video games per se, but what I am against is these female avatars. See, when I was on the bench and stuff was a lot more primitive then, you talk to these, why'd you do this? And you get to the bottom of it, and when they played Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter number 56, they would fight with the female avatars. And they didn't know there was a difference. 28 years ago, I was called in as a consultant to the local school board. And why? They wanted to discipline 5 male homeroom teachers for telling the boys this. Young men, boys are stronger than girls, so you should never hit them. Oh my God, that's so sexist. What the hell's wrong with you? Why don't you come down to the last Thursday I have in the month when I have my domestic violence days down here? You come down and take a look and you tell me whether or not you have lost your mind after you get through looking at what you're going to see. You want these men fired because they told their boys to never hit girls because they're stronger than they are. Well, that's the name of the game, and that is true. Well, it hurt my daughter's feelings too damn bad. Her feelings would be a lot more hurt if one of them slapped her upside her head or knocked a tooth out or split her lip.
Judge Joe Brown, in the news lately, they had this teacher in Jersey who they thought was dressing a little provocative, or her clothes was fitting, and they stopped her from teaching. But they're pushing the narrative of the trannies and the homosexuals as teachers. What do you think about that?
Sickening. What your sexuality is nobody's damn business.
Mm-hmm.
You keep it in your bedroom, get your freak on, but don't ram it down some kid's throat, and you behave with appropriate decorum. Now, I visited a few years ago a local high school, and the principal was really trying. And I looked over, I said, sir, look at that. And this woman had on a halter, a tube top, that she had tied in a knot to make it more provocative, and a pair of booty shorts with her butt cheeks out and a pair of sandals on. I said, you let your students dress like that? He said, Judge, that's not a student. That's a teacher. I said, what? He said, we can't talk to them about dress code. I said, oh, hell no. I went over there. I said, I don't work for the school system. I'm here as a speaker. I'm retired. I said, young lady, you are absolutely ridiculous. Don't you understand what you're trying to do here without realizing it? So what kind of image are you giving at this parade? They had this one dance group that came, young women's performing group, and they took their sweats off. There were some very attractive young ladies. They could high step, man. They could do some fantastic kicks and had some great moves. And then I said, what is that? I thought it was at first some young woman with a very short haircut. It was a kid, a guy. So what the devil? And he's sitting up there switching his butt is more vigorously than the girls were. And they had one little twerk number, and he was just showing out twerking. And, you know, it attracted the attention of some of the older grown folk. And we, what in the world is that? And then we looked at the coaches. They were twins. And they were just so flaming hot, you could have burnt marshmallows bringing them within 10 feet. It's like, what the hell is this? See, we have a thing, we're higher order mammals. And there is this courtship, etc., mating ritual and routine that's been developed, and these folk are just outside of it and trying to destroy it for everybody else, I guess, because misery loves company. Mm-hmm. Now, I wear reading glasses because, and you wear glasses because your vision is not normal. Well, it's not. If it was, it'd be 20/20, or you wouldn't need reading glasses. Right. But we accommodate that. But because these folk are not normal, it isn't the right thing to do to make everybody abnormal. It would be like saying everybody's got to wear glasses that makes them see like the people that need glasses see without them. That's wrong. Mm-hmm. And see, a joke, what do you see when you see a person?
When I see a person?
Any person.
A man or woman? Or...
No, more basic than that. I'll be halfway polite. You see a successful screw. Somebody had a successful screw. Somebody got knocked up. Somebody got prego. Something popped out the nookie. After 9 months, it grew up. It matured. It courted. Nookie was acquired or given. Something else got knocked up, and it goes on and goes on and goes on and goes on. All of these successful screws.
So the right circle of life is what you say.
Yeah, the circle of life. These folks don't fit in it. They can't reproduce. They have to recruit. Mm-hmm. So we don't need to turn everything around to accommodate them, because they don't teach sex education for normal sex. And I don't care what the hell they want to call it. That's not normal. That is abnormal. Mm-hmm. Just like you need glasses, mm-hmm. because your vision isn't normal. It isn't 20/20. And sometimes we have very bad vision. Sometimes we just have slight acuity problems. Some of them have, you know, they like to play that in the bedrooms and get their freaks on, and some of them positively flame. And like one of them told me, well, we had a vice president at Paramount when I was there in charge of public relations. My ex-wife and I got on an elevator in Manhattan for this conference, and he got on with us. And the second floor, mezzanine, this flamer got on, and our openly gay vice president jumped off the elevator. So when he got up there to the conference later, I said, what the hell was that? He said he couldn't stand the flamer. And see, like some of them that I'm acquainted with from being out there on the West Coast with that Hollywood thing for 15 years, we still talk every now and then. And like one of them explained to me, said, just because somebody's gay or lesbian does not mean they are an LGBTQ supporter. LGBTQ is a cult. Just like if you were a Christian, that does not mean that you supported the Reverend Jim Jones and drinking Kool-Aid at large church picnics.
That's right. That's right.
Or if you are Islamic, that doesn't mean you support Al Qaeda and ISIS.
Right. Right.
You see, so we have to get off of that thing of being so victimized by propaganda, because if you listen to it, you would think half the population swings that way. When actual fact, depending upon where you are in the country, it ranges from 2 to a high of about 7.5%. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't give a damn about your pronoun. If you want me to use it, tattoo it on your forehead like a fool, and I'm still not going to use it, because he is, not they is. That's bad language. You know, I'm not going to change the English language. I don't even know what the hell your damn name is, let alone worry about your goddamn pronoun. And everybody around the planet speaks English, so you can learn too. And I'm sorry if your feelings hurt, little 9-year-old punk. I don't know you, and I'll whip your daddy too. So it goes around that way. I ain't saying.
Judge Joe Brown, back in the day, they used to say, individuals that were homosexual, they used to get what they call a disability check, and they stopped that from going forward. Nowadays, you see a lot of lesbian women wanting to have children, and they're allowing a lot of homosexual men to adopt children. What is your take on that? And especially when we're talking about masculinity.
Okay, well, I have several friends who are retired principals. Some of them still go back when the regular principal is ill. And they report to me that when they go to certain areas and the teachers are complaining about the problems, they'll sit there and think, I bet you I know what's going to show up for this parent-teacher conference. And sure enough, 2 daddies, 2 mommies. And it's just, they don't grow up healthy. I don't care what they say. I saw that in my courtroom. And the other thing, too, is that they are committing to an experiment that hasn't gone on far enough or along far enough to determine whether it works. So you're saying, they're loving parents, they don't do any harm, but they do, because we don't have any studies on what they're like when they get 60, 70 years old and what they've done in life up to that point. And what little you have doesn't look good. But that depends. And then you have these reports where the doctors are all saying this is all right. No, I know a lot of doctors, and I ain't with a lot of them. And they say, And then they had a big thing at the American Conference of Psychiatry, Council of Psychiatry, where they're saying, we don't buy this. That's about 4 or 5% of this profession that buys into that. Most of them are practitioners of what they're trying to push. We think it is a pathology that needs to be addressed. It's not normal. And we don't think that way. But you see, the press pushes it because they took control of that 50 years ago. They've been working at it very hard.
I noticed that the TV shows that a lot of people watch, far as P-Valley and a lot of these Stars episode, that Power and Raising Kanan, they have a lot of gay undertones. And these are things that the family is seeing, the kids are seeing. They didn't used to always be like that. What made the change?
Because they, these long distance things where people do these 10K runs and they get within 100 meters of the finish line and they sprint. These folk think they're that 100 meters from the finish line and they're trying to sprint. Now, let me say this about the thing. 40 some years ago, I got the rent paid an awful lot from my clients who was hoes and pimps. Now, you didn't have any gay boys running that routine. You had gay boys selling booty, their own working for a pimp. And you notice the gay boy that is the manager of P Valley, he likes to give head to select customers. But what I did have, and this is a secret, out of every 100 strippers, 95 of them were lesbians. 2 or 3 went both ways, and maybe 1 or 2 out of that crowd were straight. Now, I was on retainer to several strip clubs 35 years ago. And at the first time it happened, the woman went all off on me. She thought I was trying to get her to work in my stable and lying to her. I just had them give me authorization to take their pay and their money and put part of it in an escrow account. So when I showed her what she had, she didn't believe it at first. You see, they were used to paying $29.95, $32.95 a night at Best Western or Motel 6 and spending most of the money on drugs for their friend girls, not the dudes, but the friend girls that they were sleeping with. And they would be broke. And when I showed this woman that in 1 month, she had a nice round total of 16 some thousand dollars in the bank, she thought I was lying to her and was trying to run game on her. But I had women 35 years ago who could make $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on a weekend when it was payday around this place. So they can make money, but they get high because they have miserable lives. Most of the women are homosexual, not all of them, but most of them. And their attitude was interesting. Some fool wants to pay me for getting a chance to look and sniff this. More power to him. He can pay and he can look and sniff all he wants. Now, the funny thing about it is I had clients who were straight and they liked a good screw after dancing naked and getting sweaty after night. And they'd get in trouble because they screw somebody for free up in the club. I mean, so dudes are paying attention to the ones that don't like guys, and the ones that like guys are sitting up there lusting. So I mean, you know, the other thing in P Valley, trust me, dudes ain't throwing all that cash up like that. That's front off. Most of those folk are broke, and if they wanted some pussy, they would go use that money to get some pussy. So I mean, they go up in there and they may throw a dollar bill, but you know. Ain't like that. And it's a game. It's a recruitment device. It's like what they used to have. Uncle Sam needs you. You know, be all you can be instead of be all you should be.
Right.
You know, we can take it back, but the way you take it back is don't keep your mouth shut. Hey, man, that's punk, man. That's lame, man. That's definitely uncool, man. You know that ain't cool. Young brother, that ain't cool. I see, you know, how pathetic it really is. With all ethnicities, black, white, brown, red, yellow. 25 and under, there are more boy virgins than there are girl virgins. Boys ain't getting no nookie. The girls are giving up a lot of it to the select few. Man. You know, and there is a thing here. Boys, my generation, most of the guys I know, we've dedicated our lives to the pursuit, acquisition, and enjoyment of nothing. I ain't gonna lie. And it's funny too. I remember we were at a local, guys were at a local pub, and we sitting there laughing at some young men. They were bragging about the nookie that they had got. And we laughing. Say, old brother, why are you guys laughing? Man, you bragging about amounts of pussy that we used to get in a week, man, and that's your whole lifetime exposure. What's wrong with you? Don't you know how to get laid, man? Damn. Dude, I feel sorry for you. Yeah.
You know,
God damn, man.
I can't even get the question out. Judge Joe Brown, during your experiences on the bench and being in the community and being around so many people over 50, 60 years or what have you, we've had the last time we had conversations about the informant for the FBI, but you have made a difference in Memphis, and you're running for mayor. And Memphis, we know, was corrupt. How are you going to address the corruption in Memphis?
Send some son of a bitches to jail. See, Memphis is probably the worst city in America when it comes to it. There was a guy named Boss Crump who was sent to Memphis to protect the interest of a gentleman named Robert Church, one of the first black millionaires in America. Robert Church's daddy had been the largest plantation owner in Mississippi. Robert Church was his son by a favorite slave mistress. Robert Church's half brothers, who were considered white, got killed in the Civil War. So his daddy was stuck with either I give it to this part black boy I had with this slave mistress, or it goes back to the state of Mississippi. So he was giving it to his son. He even got some laws he sponsored all over the South. So there were laws in place where if you didn't look too black, didn't have over a certain percentage of known colored ancestry, you could get an official court decree of Caucasian status. So anyway, he was giving his son Robert Church a lot of property and money and stuff, and the white folk were taking it. So Robert Church, out of respect for his mother, would not get a declaration of Caucasian status, though he could have. So his daddy sent this sharp, white, young lawyer, Crump, up to Memphis. And Crump wound up getting involved in politics, and he quickly realized that the way to control them was to make sure that black folk did not lose the vote. So Tennessee was the only state out of the old South where blacks weren't effectively stripped of the vote because Boss Crump wanted them to vote. He never had a white majority, but he had a large white minority. When he put it with the black bloc vote, he could control everything in Memphis and West Tennessee and Tennessee. So what he did is he set up a system of black brokers who would deliver the black bloc vote. And that was more than 100 years ago. And it set up a system of corruption where it's all about this and not about causes. The rest of the South, black folk lost the right to vote. So they were fighting to get something that they never lost in the Memphis area. So there wasn't that enthusiasm for your well running dry. There was this, what can I get? So nowadays we have the largest predominantly black city in America and a black city council. And they keep giving it away, not the black businessmen, not the small businessmen of any color, not to ordinary people, not to providing job opportunities. They get kickbacks from bringing people in and getting them tremendous tax breaks, who hire temps instead of permanent employees, who don't even pay minimum wage, who don't offer any benefits, but certain folk get certain benefits. They come up with things where with certain people coming in, they get zoning variances and they get to build things in places that shouldn't have these things built in. The city pays for them. and these people are supposed to give the city 4 to 6% of the net profit in return, but the accountants always zero it out, so there's nothing. So the city pays over and over for these people to get the opportunity to build a $25 million, $45 million, $85 million structure that has no use. It's just to be built. And they get filthy rich off of that, and a little bit goes back to the people under the table. The deacon, in such and such church gets a large cash contribution addressed to him in an envelope, anonymous envelope, on Pastor's Appreciation Day. He gives a little to the preacher, but the preacher knows who it is because he's on the city council. Or, you drive the racist and corrupt female DA we had up until this last election. It was held to be the most corrupt in America.
Mm-hmm.
And she gives this person a job driving her around and 80-some thousand a year to run a so-called Black reach out program that does absolutely nothing, and the funds are controlled through the DA's office rather than through community groups. They bring in consultants, and you can see this on the national level. There are always people who don't have any expertise in the subject. Just somebody you think would get you the most political feedback. So, in other words, you get ineptitude, you get a habit of wrongdoing and corruption, and you get it taken over with by what the kids call the boule, and they don't even have any street wisdom possessed. It's like you have people representing districts they can't walk in because they get their asses kicked unless they have a police escort.
Mm-hmm.
Rule 1: if you're going to represent someplace, body be able to walk through it after dark without getting your ass kicked because they say, "Oh, he represents me," or "She represents me." So we don't have that, and that's a problem. We have to restore that. We need to do something about the police, but it's not what these folk are doing, because the police are a 1-1 representative of political reality. So what's going on is effectively the elected Black officials are not really representing their constituents, and the police are not responsive. Now, if you get effective representation, you can do something about that. Now, my proposal is to change the police model from a quasi-military one where you have civilian oversight to having civilian direction, management, and control like the Pentagon. You have the president, he's a civilian commander-in-chief. You have the civilian secretary of defense. You have the civilian secretary of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and subsecretary. So what I'm proposing is a civilian director of police be the boss man. You have a sub-director over homicide, uniform patrol, traffic, juvenile, sex crimes, robberies, burglaries, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. So instead of somebody looking over the shoulder, you have civilians calling the shots. Now, the civilian can be retired first responders, vets, good citizens. You need community communications where you don't just have to go through 911. You can call your block captain or your neighborhood captain who has a direct tie-in on police communications equipment and can get a quick response. You have sub-precincts where, like one thing, there's a black-oriented national ski organization. They come through. We can let them have an abandoned ski rink that's down in the hood where ordinarily you take your life in your hands going there, but put a police precinct in it and make it a safe assembly area where folk can come and hang out. You see, get that kind of thing where you take control of your neighborhood. The mayor can authorize a community militia where you get retired first responders, veterans, good citizens who are willing to train once a month, go out on patrol, and supplement the police to take part in bestowing order and peace where there is now chaos. That's what men do. We can have that. We need to set up another idea, arbitration proceedings, where lawyers are not allowed to practice, but by contractual agreement, people can resolve their disputes to cut down the interpersonal hostility and aggression so there's less take it in your own hands violence. You see, there are a lot of things we can do, but people don't think about it. You take the young on the cusp of being a thug dude, you give him a chance to be a leader, and he starts becoming your most ferocious advocate for law and order because he's in charge. And you save him from being the thug. You get the juveniles who are on the edge of becoming too thuggish. And you get an agreement with that kid, his guardian or parent or parents, and the police selecting the right police and some other folk start counseling this kid about manhood, duty, honor, obligation, responsibility, giving him vocational access, training access, academic access, and if he goes through it, completes the 6 weeks, 6 months, 1 year, whatever it is, the charges aren't profit. We've got a brand new juvenile court judge. He's a good brother. He used to be a part-time PD assigned to my courtroom for 10 years. I know him. He got elected and he finally overthrew a poison system that's been going on since 1963, where they've been running the juvenile court for profit. And you don't generate profit by curing the problem that you're making profit off of. So what was being done was exactly the wrong stuff. And we had one so-called judge from 1963 up to 2006, didn't even finish the 6th grade. That's as high as he went in school. The Supreme Court said he couldn't hear a case because he didn't have the education to understand what the lawyers were telling him, which would deprive a citizen of his or her right to counsel. And they ran it on intimidation, poison, and it was a safe haven for lawyers who were incapable, couldn't make it in the real world, so they'd hang out at juvenile court hoping to get an appointment on a case. And it was pure swamp. Now, that's, I'm sure, going to change. So there's a lot we can do with that. We in Memphis are at the center of the American distribution net. Memphis International Airport has the largest commercial tonnage flow in the world. It's twice what the second place airport, Hong Kong, has per year. Every now and then, Chinese will ramp it up and they'll catch up. Every few years, they'll come out number 1 and Memphis is number 2. But we have barge traffic that comes in from Europe. How do you get a barge across the Atlantic Ocean? Well, you don't have the barge pushed across the Atlantic. You load them up in Europe and you bring them down to the Mediterranean and you put them on an ocean-going barge transport. They come to the port of New Orleans, they drop the hatch, float the barges out, get them to Memphis where they go through customs the first time. That's the input into the American transportation net. Now, going back the other way, they're usually empty. We can load them up here, send them back into the Mediterranean, where some of them will wind up going to Europe, and some of them go through the other side of the Mediterranean out of the Suez Canal into Asia. And then, you know, they sell a lot of Toyotas, Mitsubishis, Lexus vehicles, Infinitis, and such like in America. But they come from the Far East across the Pacific Ocean to the port of Long Beach in California. We can shave 9,000 miles off of that trip and get them directly to the distribution center of North America, where they'd have to go by train if they came in on the West Coast. So wide open place. Everybody's going to electric cars in 12, 15 years, and Ford just set up a low entry level electric car factory up here in Memphis, right outside of Memphis in Mason. Cadillac's got one nearby, so we can take all of those cars they're trying to get in the world market, ship them through Memphis. They want to build a factory to make electric cars for Ford, 27,500 employees. That means car manufacturing shift from Detroit, Lansing, etc., and a few other places to Memphis, Tennessee, or nearby anyway. And that's a lot of trade. Do what I'm thinking about. Take the technology the Japanese have come up with, where they have tidal generators to generate hydroelectric power. We can put them in the Mississippi River, get baffles to increase the water flow velocity going into tandem generators, and utilize that for free electric energy, which would bring industry into the place, allow electric buses, these electric cars that are made nearby, to be bought here, to give people jobs, to sell this energy from New Orleans to Louisville to Chicago, Georgia, Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, North Carolina, you name it. It could be wide open, but these people have no imagination. They have no ingenuity. They're all into, what can you give me? You see, and that's not a good thing, because most of the young people here are trying to get the hell out of this place. And the older people say, I wish my child was, so anxious to leave. I'd like to see my grandchildren without having to get on an airplane. So make this a place to come. And actually, Memphis is bigger than Atlanta, and Atlanta's got its own problems. Joking. Like a friend of mine said, Joe, man, I was at Atlanta airport and I saw what I thought was the finest woman I'd ever laid eyes on. Man, I got up enough nerve to go say something, and it turned out to be a boy. Like, man, still ain't getting in that lifeboat before the women and children. We'll pull your ass out and go chum the sharks with you on the other side.
Judge Joe Brown, I hate to cut this off, but we have reached our time limit, and I want the people to be able to know to go out and vote for Judge Joe Brown for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee, because that's the individual that's going to cause change and make change for you and your family. And
I'll tell you something. We got a slogan, JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. If you want to take back your town, send Brown downtown. The other one we have, I've got a business. I sell barbecue
sauce, right?
Judge Joe Brown, JJB, barbecue, BBQ. So it's JJB, BBQ.com. Order yourself some. It's some good stuff, man. People rave about that.
Make sure that you go out and vote and you get a bottle of that barbecue sauce.
Yeah. Judge, we're going to follow you, and we make sure you're more than welcome. Come on back to give us an update as the time goes on. And if anything you want to bring about to the stage, you're more than welcome to return. We told you got a home right here away from home.
Yes, sir.
It's been a pleasure as always, and I thank you again for answering my call and coming on and give us your wise counsel.
And drop in on my Twitter site at Judge Joe Brown TV. There are a lot of Judge Joe Browns out there on sites, but mine says at Judge Joe Brown TV. Check it out. I might offend you, but I'm telling you the truth.
Hey, and we want to tell you straight up and down, Judge Joe Brown, we enjoy the knowledge that you bring to our show, the wealth of information that you have, the historical value that you bring to any forum that you step into. And we want to say thank you. And we're definitely going to support and make sure individuals get out and vote for JJB in 23.
There you go. I gotta go. This has been Judge Joe. Catch me when you can, because I'm the one that ran. I'm out of here. All right.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been honored and privileged. Again, a great episode. I told you when we started it, if you didn't want to hear the truth, you might want to turn away because this man does not hold nothing back.
No
As you
filter.
can see, no filter, straight up and down, no chaser. Vote for Judge Joe Brown for mayor. Absolutely, Teresa. Listen, it's been great, but we got to get up out of here. Got a lot of things to do. Got to get ourselves ready for the next show later. Looking. Okay, what we say is the website was again. JJ.
Twitter. It was Judge Joe Brown TV. You know what I'm saying? At Twitter. JJBBQ.com.
At Judge Joe Brown.
Yeah.
For the Twitter.
Yeah.
At Judge Joe Brown. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to get out of here. It's been a pleasure. And as always, we wish you mad love, peace, and happiness to Allah, 5% nation of gods and earth, to all the human families of the planet Earth. This is the Real2reel360, and we are outie. We'll see you when we see you. Peace, my big brother in God. I love you. We'll be back.
Peace.